Hi everyone, thank you so much for following along with my Photoshop classes. Hopefully by this time you have a better understanding of Photoshop, you can create better designs that will sell more t-shirts. This was originally supposed to be a 2-hour live class. Actually, we did have the live class, it was great, but we also ran into some technical issues with Zoom. Afterwards, I decided to record the set of videos that you just watched. I did cover some great content in the class and thought parts of it can still be beneficial to everyone. So I heavily edited the live video and kept the parts that focus on composition and the principles of design. So in the video, we start off in the middle of creating another variation of the Mona Lisa design. This one has a little bit more flair to it. So hope you enjoy the class. Adjustment layer down here, and then I put hue and saturation. So that's what I did. And what you can do here, you can actually adjust the vibrance of the color. So if you want the colors to pop more, maybe you adjust the saturation a bit more. And again, this really makes it pop. And so all the colors are more vibrant, or you can desaturate it. So what I like to do with a lot of my images, what Jennifer said, so you have to add an adjustment layer to change the brightness and hue. You don't have to. There are other ways of doing it. The nice thing about the adjustment layer, it doesn't harm the image. It's like a filter on top of it. Another way people do it, if you go to image, here you can adjust the brightness, contrast, levels, and curves. So when I learned Photoshop, this is originally how I used to do it. The problem with this is that this will permanently destroy your image. So if you change it to black and white, that image is permanently black and white. The nice thing about these adjustment layers is that you can completely play around with them and they don't harm the original image. So I'm gonna make this monochromatic and make it black and white because I think it looks cool. And then what I'm going to do is add another adjustment layer, and here I'm going to affect the brightness and contrast. So I can make it a little bit brighter, as you can see, and I can adjust the contrast so the darks are darks and the whites are whiter. So here's what I'm doing. I'm kind of digging this effect. Now with this brightness, I like the text, but I kind of want her dark. Again, the problem I'm having with this, going back to Friday's class, is that you see this kind of yin and yang, but she is competing with the text. So the first thing you see is her face, then you read the text. I really want the text to pop out more. What I'm gonna do with this, I'm selecting on this adjustment layer, and all I'm gonna do, going back to this marquee tool, I'm gonna highlight this part of the image, and I'm gonna go to the layer mask and make it black. So you see what I did there? So now that only affects the text. And so I like this because the text pops out and then this is kind of in the back. So it kind of gives a little bit of depth and the emphasis is on I love art history. Now going back to the Mona Lisa. I like these little lines and the cracks that you can see, but I want to give it more texture. I'm not really happy with the texture of this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click at the very top, go to filter gallery. So if you highlight filter at the top, and I'm going to go to filter gallery. So these right here are super cool because here's where you can go to really manipulate your images. For now, we're just going to do filter gallery. Here you can add all kinds of crazy filters. I'm going to change this to 12 so I can see how it looks like. So here we can give it like an artistic brush, cutout, and it takes a couple of seconds because this is a large image. And so it's taken a while to preview. That's kind of a cool effect. I'm kind of digging that. But I'm going to go to sketch because I kind of want this halftone pattern. And I kind of like what's going on here with this halftone pattern. Let's see, I'm just going to click OK. And there you go. So if I zoom in, you can see that it added this cool effect where you can kind of see in a smaller scale, going back to patterns and rhythm, how this halftone kind of creates this cool little effect of little blocks. I really dig that texture, and it only applies to her face. You can see there. And this is a smart filter, so I can hide that. That's what it looked like originally. This is what it looks like now. Okay, so hopefully you were able to see the difference with Zoom. So I'm kind of digging this. Let's see here. Okay, one thing I want to mention. So when I drag this image onto my canvas, you see this little box on the layer? That means that this is a smart object. This is kind of new to Photoshop CC. Older versions don't have this. What this does, it has like a reference of the image. When you have a smart object, if you add one of these filters to a smart object, it doesn't damage the layer. What it does is it kind of creates like an adjustment layer. So what's really cool is that you can undo or hide the effect you made. Bear in mind though, it does eat up your memory. Be careful, especially when making merch shirts, because your merch shirts are huge. So I'm kind of digging this. Now, one problem I have with this layer is that she's too bright again. So I like the effect, but she's too bright. What can I do? So what I'm going to do, and this is like a little trick I have, and this is going back to the principles of design or elements of design with value. I want to change the value. I like the effect, but I kind of want to change the value of this. So I'm going to create a new layer here. I'm going to hit a brush. What I'm going to do is select, make sure this brush is selected. Hardness, I'm going to put to 0. So what that means, so this brush right here kind of glows. It glows because the edge of the brush starts to feather. So it starts to slowly disappear. With hardness, you can control how much it slowly disappears. So if I put hardness to 100, it's just going to have a big circle when I draw the brush. But if I put hardness to 0, it's going to kind of have a feather around the edge. With the brush, you want the hardness to 0 to have this feather effect. I know I want this feather effect. I'm going to select that. Here, I have the brush. I have this new layer here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this big. And the way I'm doing that, again, it's the brackets. You can change the size of your brush by hitting the brackets, which are right next to the P key. What I'm going to do is just slowly, ooh, that was way too much. I'm going to undo this. Okay, make this smaller. Now, with my brush, I'm going to change the opacity. It's the same way you change with the layers, the opacity. I'm going to change this to like, let's say 20. So now I'm on my brush. I have this specific brush selected. I have the hardness set to 0. And then the opacity is around 25. The flow, I'm going to make, let's just say 38. I'm just kind of playing around. One thing with Photoshop, you're always playing. There's never like set numbers. Some people might say, enter 22% opacity. It doesn't really matter. You just kind of play with it, and eventually you get a better idea on how to do this. So now what I can do is I can slowly darken the image. And so this is what I'm doing. I'm slowly darkening it. And what I want to do is I want to really darken this part. And the reason why I'm darkening it, I want the left side of her face to be dark, and then I want it to gradually be light so that your eyes are pointing towards the I love art history. I want that to be the emphasis. So that's why I'm kind of hiding her, but not completely, just a little bit. And this is one way to do it. So this is a trick I use all the time. I also do this if I have text. So for example, I'm going to go on a quick tangent here. I have another layer. I select the text tool. I'm going to put hello. So if I have text and I find that my text is getting lost with the background, there's not enough contrast. One trick you can do is that going back to the brush tool, I hit brush, you can hit B for the brush tool, and make sure the opacity and the flow is kind of low. You can just slightly darken the area behind the text, and then you make it legible. Now, if you do it right, people are not even going to notice. They're not going to see that that part's darker. It just looks like it's part of the image. And so that's a design trick, and I use it all the time. And so that's one thing you can do to make text stand out more. And let's go. I'm going to delete that. And so go back, and I'm just going to kind of darken this a little bit more, her a little bit more. Okay, cool. Big change I did here. So it's really cool. I still have my halftone effect, so you can still see all the dots and the stuff, but I kind of darken the lights a bit. And I did that so that you can see I love art history. So this is kind of cool. I think this would make a good book cover. If you're going to make a book for Canva or on CreateSpace, you want to publish a book that's titled I Love Art History. This is kind of a cool book, but we're making a shirt. So this doesn't really fit well as a shirt. I mean, you can try it. It might look cool. Some people might like the big block here with text there. Me personally, I want this to feel like it lives in a shirt. So we have our Mona Lisa. We have our layer that brightened up the text layer. I'm going to put all these in a group again. I'm going to call this t-shirt design. I want to make this look like it lives in a t-shirt. I'm going to shrink this just a little bit because I don't like how it's super close to, it's filling up the space completely. I'm going to shrink it so it's in the center. So it's kind of like a circle. So I need to zoom out, and I'm going to shrink this entire thing just a little bit. Now, don't worry, because all our masking was done on the layer. So what happened was when I shrunk everything, it actually shrunk the mask, and that's what you're seeing here. But we're going to fix this in a minute. So going back to our t-shirt design. Now I'm going to create a mask around the entire design. So the first thing I want to do is crop off this stuff here. Let's see here. Let's go about right there. Now I'm kind of digging this. This kind of feels like it's living in a t-shirt. It's a little top heavy. Okay, so it's looking a bit more like it lives there. Let's see what else we can do with it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my brush tool, and I'm going to, so you have all these multiple brushes here, and I'm going to select one of these grungy brushes. They're actually called, what are they called? You mouse over it, oil, pastel, large, or oil, heavy, flow, dry. I call them grungy brushes. That's like my nickname for these. So I'm going to select one of them, and then let's see here. I'm going to make it really big. That's kind of cool. Select this layer mask, and remember, anything black is going to disappear. Anything white is going to show up. So I have black selected. I have the layer mask, and what I'm going to do is use this grungy brush, and I'm going to change the opacity to 100 and the flow to 100, because I want to make sure that it's just 100% going to, this brush is just 100% going to just knock everything out. And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of have irregular shapes and patterns. That was a bit too much. I undo it. And then you can see here, you can kind of see what we're going, this effect we're going. I kind of want to look like torn paper or something. That's a little too much. I undo it. So hopefully you guys can follow along. And I really love doing this because it really makes it feel like it lives in a t-shirt as opposed to just having a block. Now, don't get me wrong, some people like the block, and blocks still look cool, but this is just kind of something I like to do. And there you go. So you can see what I'm doing here. And you can play with this if it's a bit too much. What we want to do is we want this to be balanced. It's all we're doing. We want this, you got this image here. It's kind of a yin and yang with the type here. And we just kind of create kind of a balance at the same time in asymmetrical. So we want this font right here to pop out more. This one, we want you to know this is a picture of the Mona Lisa, just a little bit, but we want your emphasis to be here. And then we kind of just tear the edges up. It gives it this sense of history, this historical thing, like it was ripped out of a newspaper or something. And so there you go. I have this brush selected. The other thing you can do is you can do the opposite. So if you select white here, and I'm going to make this kind of small. Now let's zoom in, and what I can do is actually start revealing parts of it. And this is really cool about Layer Mask, is that you really have control on your design when you're using Layer Mask. You can hide or reveal. Here we go. So I want to make sure that none of her faces, because I want her face to be intact. Okay. And so there you go. That looks like a t-shirt to me. So what's really cool about this, I can select this, and let's see what it looks like on a red shirt. Okay, that's what it looks like on a red shirt. That should not have, so this is good to know. I switched it. What is causing this? So this layer right here is not adhering to text. Let's go back to our text layer, and I'm cleaning it up right now. So it turns out that this layer right here is not masked appropriately, and so it was black. So let's see if that does it. There we go. Okay, now that lives there. And you can see there's a little bit of shadow and artifact here. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Let's see, I can probably crop that here. So this is what it would look like on a red shirt. So you can see it probably, I'm not sure why that's showing up. And this is part of the design process. I'm right now trying to figure out where is this coming from. There it is. Okay, so this right here needs to be cropped. Deleting it. There we go. That looks much better. I'm going to do it some more because that looks kind of weird. You guys are watching me clean this up because this is part of being a designer, and part of working with Photoshop is having to clean up after your own mistakes. There we go. That looks a lot better. So I'm not happy with this blur here. So I'll probably have to go in with the brush tool and make sure all this blurry blob, these little blurs are gone. The reason why I say that is because it's kind of a mystery on how this would come out on merch. It would probably be okay. It would just look a little blurry. But with merch, be really careful with the opacity layer, because they say if it's 20%, it's going to come out like a blob. And right here, like the opacity is right there. If you go 20%, some people have said 50. I try to avoid using opacity with merch. And what I mean by that is that I don't have like a blocks, like I'm not going to create an object that's like 50% black on top of the shirt. I'm going to make sure it's 100%. Now, I might have like another box inside of it. That's okay to do in opacity because I have a solid color behind it. But I'm not going to rely on the shirt color for that. So that's a quick merch shirt. I hope everyone understood that. But I think for the most part, we would be okay for this. And so let's see what it looks like on blue. Kind of cool. Oh, again, you can see how this is affecting, and I'm not sure why that's happening. So this guy is causing the problem. So I can probably clean this up too, but there we go. That did it. So just make sure everything's clean. I'm really glad I changed these colors here. Let's go green. See what it looks like with green. It's kind of cool. And you can see how this looks like on the shirt. If I want to play with color, you can add another layer here. Let's see here. Let's hit, this is called the gradient. And let's play with some color. I'm just playing at this point. What opacity do you want for merch? Okay, opacity, I usually just do 100% or 0%. I try to avoid the in-betweens for merch. If you were going to do it, maybe 50% would probably be the safe zone. I don't really know. And I'm only saying this because when our first round of merch shirts, they were super awesome. I did all kinds of crazy Photoshop stuff and the printing came out great. Recently, I've noticed that I can't do as many crazy stuff in Photoshop anymore because it comes out kind of weird. And they have different printers. There's different people operating the printers. And another thing to know about merch is that when you have one shirt that's printed, it gets printed on a sublimation machine, which means that it gets printed out with full colors. However, if your shirts are selling in a larger scale, they're going to switch over to silkscreen, or screen printing is what it's called, screen printing. And so at that point, it's going to use the traditional 4 colors, or it might be a mixture of both, where some of it's sublimation, the other is traditional screen printing. So just to let you know about merch. And that's probably why they don't want you to having any type of description on the printer itself or the actual fabric of the clothing, because they're the ones that are going to handle that. I say for now, with opacity, and what I mean by that is that if you have something that's going into the shirt, make sure it's either 100% or 0%, and you won't run into any problems at that point with this. I want to do some cool colors. So I'm making this blue. I'm going to make this kind of, let's do light blue. So kind of this variation of it. I'm going to have this gradient here. I selected this gradient, and I'm going to put that over there. Oh no, it's all right. I'm going to hit Option and only apply it here. Now, it didn't come out the way I wanted it to because of the Mona Lisa. So this is cool. This is why I did this. I wanted to show you. I have this gradient. As you can see, it kind of had this cool gradient overlay, but it hid the Mona Lisa. With layers, you have blend modes. It's a whole nother thing to learn about. And blend modes, I guess the easiest thing is to show you. So here is overlay. And that's what blend mode does, is that it kind of changes the way the top layer interacts with the layer behind it. And so you can do luminosity, that turns everything gray, color. So what color does is that adds this set of colors on top of the image. So you can see and create kind of a cool effect. Again, you can change the opacity, but I just want it to do like an overlay. So it only works with the layers behind it. What I can do at this point, I can add a new layer, only apply it to this one. Suppose I want some warm colors. I'm going to select red. We'll keep our cool brush, and we can just kind of paint over some red here. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just painting this, a little bit of red, and then I can add, again, do an overlay here, and that kind of has, so this overlay is on top of the blue. And you can see these are different ways you can manipulate color. It kind of looks cool with the text. I don't know. Maybe I can, I'm kind of digging that. Let's see here. Go back. So my brush, I'm going to rotate this so it has kind of like a different angle. And I'm just going to dab it just a little bit. I don't like the way that dabbed. Let's just do a tiny bit. I just want like a little bit of an accent. And there we go. I'm not really digging it, but you kind of see where I'm going for it. I want to add just a little bit of red to keep the balance. And so it feels like it kind of lives there. But there you go, probably ready to be printed on a shirt. Well, you might find as you're working at it, maybe you kind of like this by itself and you just want to crop out the Mona Lisa. And then there you go. You can just, I love art history with some cool colors. So or you want the Mona Lisa. At this point, maybe you want to go through this process again and use a different image. Maybe you want to go Rembrandt. Maybe you want to do Van Gogh, any public domain art history. So this is an example of what you can do. We'll call it Mona Lisa Art History Project. So I'm saving that file. There we go. So now I want to make a new image, and I'm going back to Photoshop. So I want to talk about vector and rasterized graphics. Vector graphics are something you use with Adobe Illustrator. And I'll show you really quick what a vector graphic is. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm selecting this pen tool here, and I am drawing these points. And this is called the Bezier curve. I have a whole Photoshop, I have a video, like a 30-minute video on how I set up images for an Amazon listing. And I go over cropping an image with the Bezier curve. And so with the Bezier curve, it's a collection of points with curves. It's all done through math. And with this, you can create any shape you want. So, I mean, professional illustrators, logo makers, this is what they use. This is the Bezier curve. Primarily, it's a tool you're going to use in Illustrator. It is available in Photoshop, which is pretty cool. And I use this a lot for cropping things out. So here is my Bezier curve. And what I can do, I can click on path. So you see layers, channels. This is like your red channel, your green channel, your blue channel. I didn't want to get into this because I don't really use it too much. Path is what I do use. So what you can do here, how do you turn that tool on? Barbara asked. Okay, let me back up. I clicked on the tools, you click here, and if you mouse over, it's the pen tool. That's the pen tool. Now, the way the pen tool works is you click, you leave the mouse down, and then you drag. And that's how you set up your points. So you can actually, if you hold shift, you can draw a straight line. But generally what you want to do with these is you're going to create curves. If you have an illustration, suppose you have a child who drew this cute little picture that you want to put on a shirt. One thing you can do is you can scan it or take a picture of it on your phone, put it into your canvas, and then use this Bezier curve to start tracing a silhouette of the image. That will give you the most clean and probably the most accurate cropping of an image. So here we have a curve. Now what you can do is, under your layers, click on path. So you click here, hit Command, or it might be Control, but you want to look for that marquee tool. What that's going to do, it's going to turn your path into a selection. So now it's selected. We have this path, and I can hit Option Delete, and now it's red. So you can see that, and that's how you can draw in Photoshop. I'm going to do another exercise, and I'm going to do it as quickly as possible, and you guys can see how I work. Hopefully you can capture it on, and because I think it's going to be a fun project. So I'm going to do this, and I'll be super quick. Okay, I'm going to create a new project. So here's a new project, and you're just going to watch me work at this point. I'll explain what I can. Panda. So this is an image I found on Pixabay, and I'm going to blow him up. He's kind of a cool little panda. I like him. He's cute. Okay, I'm going to zoom in, and what I want to do, I want to crop him out. So what I can do to crop him out, I hit the quick selection tool, W, and I'm going to just select this. And what this does is this quick selection tool, it looks for large amounts of contrast, and it does that to quickly select whatever it is, what you clicked on. And this is a really great way to crop out stuff. It's a quick way. It doesn't always work. It's buggy as heck, and people spend too much time manipulating it, which is why I usually go to the pen tool. But it just happens to work with this image pretty well, especially for the purposes of this exercise. It's either a baby fox or a red panda. I thought it was a red panda. I actually don't remember. I just saw it on Pixabay. It looked cute. I wanted an animal, and that's what I did. Okay. So I selected him, and what I'm going to do is crop him out. So there we go. We got him cropped out. He's a little blurry on the edges. I'm not going to worry too much about that for now. And you see how he is. And what I'm going to do is make him black and white. So I'm going to go, I hit the adjustment layer, hue saturation, making them black and white. Maybe I'll adjust the contrast, brightness and contrast, just a little bit. Okay, that looks cool. Okay, I'm digging it. Really digging it. Put in a folder. So what I'm going to do, because for time's sake, I'm going to flatten this. Command E or Control E, and I flatten this because I know this is what I want. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my filter gallery, and I'm going to stylize him. That did the wrong thing. Let's go back to the filter gallery, and let's see how we can style this guy. All right, that looks all right. I think we can do better. Oh, that looks cool. I'm digging that. That's what I want. So what I did was I went into filter gallery, I clicked the stamp tool, and that made him look pretty cool. I'm kind of digging that. Actually, let's see what else we can do. This is all kinds of fun stuff. The stamp tool is fine. Okay, we'll just get that. Okay, so, okay, I clicked okay. You see what I did there. And what I'm going to do is change this to black so I know what this guy looks like. He really pops out there. It's a lot of contrast there. We'll take care of it later, but that's what I want. And because I flattened it, this effect is permanent. So I'd have to undo it to go back. So just so you know, this effect is permanent because it's not a smart object. And I did that to save memory so I can be as quick as possible. Okay, I'm kind of digging this guy. Now, remember we talked about glasses on Friday, how like people love animals with glasses? So I found these hipster glasses on Pixabay. Oh, okay, what do I mean by flattened? Okay, I will go through this really quick. Okay, so let's go back through the process. Okay, these are all my layers. Okay, this is the image. What I did was I cropped them out using the quick selection tool. I then desaturated him to make them black and white. I then kind of brightened them up, which actually I'm not digging the bright thing anymore. So I think I'm just going to go for that. I'm going to delete this layer. Yep, I want to delete that. And then this right here, I am going, so what I did was I have my hue and saturation layer, and I have my panda. Now my panda is a smart object. I can keep working, and that's cool, but it's going to slow down my computer. So what I'm going to do is select actually everything here. I've selected all these layers, and you go to, I think it's layers, and merge layers. It's going to merge all these layers into one layer. So, and I hit Command E, and it's called flattening it. So you flattened it. If this was like 10 layers, it's all on one layer now. I can't do like cool Photoshop manipulation stuff that I was able to do before because it is all one object. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so I have my object. I'm going to go back to my filter gallery, and I'm going to go to, now what I can do, convert for smart filters. I can convert this into a smart object, but I'm not going to. Filter gallery and go back to the stamp tool. Again, sketch, stamp tool, return. There we go. There's a picture of our panda again. I'm going to make the background black. So I'm kind of digging him. What I'm going to do is go back to my file. This is a glasses I download on a Pixabay. So they're like cool glasses. And I'm just going to leave that there for now. Moving on top of here, we got our glasses. What I did was I hit Command T to transform, and I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to scale it down a little bit. Rotate it just a little bit. Move them. There we go. And let's see here. I'm going to actually just nudge it with the arrow key. And there we go. I think that's cool. I'm kind of digging this. Now what I'm going to do is have my adjustment layer go to a solid color, and I'm going to choose red. There we go. And I'm going to do that. There we go. Hey, remember we talked about this black and white image with glasses? I'm really digging this image. He's pretty cool. So I'm going to put this all in a group. You can see how I did this. Now I'll call this cute red panda bear. So panda. And then what I'm going to do is have another adjustment. I'm going to have a mask here, and I'm going to take my brush tool, select that guy, and I am just going to slowly, I don't want to do it too much, just a little bit. I'll keep that. That's fine. I'm kind of digging that. And so I'm going to add another layer here. Go back to my brush tool. This time I'm just going to go back here, select that brush tool, and this hardness, I'm going to maybe soften the way the flow and the opacity. let's see, we're going to put this here so it's underneath my layer mask, this masking here. Let's go back here, hit the brush tool, got to select this guy, hit the brush tool. And what I'm just going to do, I'm going to darken parts of the image. And I'm doing this because I want more emphasis on his glasses. So that's what I'm doing right here. I want this to really stand out. So I'm going to really bear with me. And you can see, and you're just watching me work at this point. Sorry about that. Let's keep going. All right, I'm kind of digging that. I think I dig it. You see what I did? I kind of created a vignette around it. So I want the glasses, again, contrast, light and dark, black and white, red, boom, in your face. This panda has glasses. At this point, capture it. What do you want to say? What is this cute panda? What does he say to you? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? And there's your t-shirt. And so that's our cute panda. And let's see what it looks like in blue to make sure that there's nothing crazy going on. And oh no, you see the blub? See that? So that didn't work out too well. Let's see what we can do with that. All right, so I'm gonna hit the eraser tool. I'm cleaning this image up real quick. You can tell I'm cleaning it up. I selected this mask here and I'm just gonna blacken out the stuff that I don't want. And what I want to do, I want to select the glasses. There we go. So, and oh, it's still bugging me. Not done yet. Almost done. Ah. There we go. There's our cute panda. Rosa Faryab asked, do I still need to clean it up if you're going to leave it with the black background? I would say yes. You don't have to. I was really lazy in the beginning, and it does print out black, and you do see that you printed out black. However, after a while, it fades away and it doesn't really matter. But if you want this as professional as possible, definitely clean everything out. So that's it. I love Photoshop. You know, Catherine, it's funny because Catherine's on a mission to do as much cool graphics she can without touching Photoshop. Like, she knows a little bit of it. I've taught her it. But for some reason, she's out to do stuff outside of Photoshop. And I think she might, I don't know, she loves to share it, and she loves to do things, just, she has her way of doing things. And so Catherine loves to explore other tools. If you know the elements of design, the principles of design, it really doesn't matter what you use, whether you use Photoshop, whether you use some other tool online. The important thing is that you have a good understanding of design and you know how to train your eyes for design. Me personally, I say go with Photoshop. I mean, it's only $9 a month and you can do almost anything you want with it. You're using the same tools that professional graphic artists use to create the cover of Vogue. This is industry standard, and really your limitation is the limitations are your creativity and your knowledge of using Photoshop. That's it. Yeah, Photoshop is industry standard. And so although it is a lot of work, and I mean, if you got a business to run, I mean, you just want to sell shirts. Your end result is just to sell shirts. Maybe you want to spend 30 hours, 50 hours learning Photoshop. That's understandable. But again, you know, hopefully this made you so you're more aware of how to use it and you have a good starting point on what to build off of. Yeah, I know it's a huge learning curve. Honestly, I couldn't learn Photoshop on my own. I had a hard time. So that, I mean, I went to college to learn Photoshop, and that's how I learned it, just because at the time I wasn't able to learn it by myself. Now I think it's different. I'm a little more tech savvy. So, but yeah, I completely understand the learning curve. But once you get over, there's like a learning curve. Once you learn a certain amount of tools, you get over kind of like a hump. At that point, you can just fly. Like, you really can fly with Photoshop, and you feel really comfortable about it. And the limitations at that point are just your personal design skills. So that's it. All right. Well, I think that concludes it. I know it's been a long class and it's been kind of chaotic. Okay. Bye. I will see you guys later.